Hello, YouTube. This is Nikki. Today is May 5th, 2016. Today's blog, I'm going to talk a little bit about my son. He is not with us, and this could be like a tearjerker, so caution, maybe grab some tissues or whatever. Okay, so anyway, I am 33. I have been pregnant 8 times. About, I'd say 8 years ago, I found out I had lupus anticoagulant, which is a blood disorder. And basically, what that was doing was causing my body to create clots in the umbilical cord or in random places in my body that was causing me not to carry the baby full term or to unfortunately clog their umbilical cord and kill them that way. Okay, so my second pregnancy was my son. His name is DeAnthony Isaiah. Um, I was 17 when I got pregnant with him. He was my second pregnancy. My first one I terminated via abortion. And so when I got pregnant with him, I thought, okay, this is clearly a sign, got to have him, even though I'm 17. Had a lot of support. My mom, I lived with her, and she was very supportive. My sister was amazingly supportive. She had a 3-year-old daughter at the time, and we were all just really excited because he was going to be the first boy of the family. Um, so morning of my delivery, I was, I think I was 9 months and like a couple days over. So I was definitely ready to pop. Woke up, watched some Maury. It was something about, who's your baby daddy? Then I told my mom, because I was living with her, I'm tired. I'm going to go upstairs, take a nap. Went upstairs, took a little nap, woke up. Water broke in my bed, and I'm screaming to her. I'm like, Mom, my water broke. Call my sister, and she's crying on the phone at work. She's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, I'm about to get off work at 2, and I'll meet you at the hospital. And my mom's like, don't worry, take your time. This stuff takes hours. So let's get dressed. So, of course, we're getting dressed, drive into the hospital, like everything's fine. Um, and we get there, and the hospital and doctor's office are connected. So, because it was still like, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to the doctor's office. She takes me into the room. She gets her little Doppler out, checking for the heartbeat. And she's like, okay, let's go ahead and do a quick ultrasound. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we go in the ultrasound room. It's my sister, my mom, and me, and we're sitting there. We're like, oh, we get to see him on the screen one last time. Ultrasound technician, she's looking, tell something's wrong because she's looking. And then she's like, I'll be back. And at that moment, it's like we all knew, like all of our hearts just immediately sank. And it was like, something's wrong. And I mean, it was just almost like at that moment, everything else, as much as I can remember from that up until that time, it's like everything else slowly became like a horrible nightmare and a blur. I remember vaguely my sister screaming. I remember me saying, just giving my heart. I mean, I remember being wheeled from the doctor's office to the actual delivery room. I remember being in a delivery room with, at that time, just my mom and my sister. And then I was so distraught that they were giving me so many drugs because I still had to deliver him. I mean, I was still going to have to deliver him. I was still having contractions. He was going to come regardless. Um, and I remember every time I'd wake up and there'd be like 5 new people in the room. It was like what turned into just my sister and my mom turned into friends, family, family members, I mean, friends of our family. And it just seemed like, oh, it was terrible. I remember when it came time to push, I kept thinking maybe they're wrong. Maybe he's going to come out and he's going to cry. They're going to resuscitate him. There's going to be some miracle, and this is going to be a terrible, terrible nightmare. Unfortunately, he came out and he was beautiful. He was, 7 pounds, 8 ounces. He was actually my biggest baby that I had. My other kids were only 5 pounds each, and they were full term. Um, and it was just sad. I mean, there's no words to describe just like all of us, it was like we were all just devastated. Um, so luckily I had like an amazing doctor and I was in an amazing hospital. They let me spend time with him. Of course, like every couple hours, they'd have to take him away to put him in the morgue. because if they didn't, then, obviously you decompose faster. So they moved me to because I was on the labor floor, and I was just so tired of watching people go by happy with balloons, listening to babies cry, because I wasn't experiencing that. I was experiencing the complete opposite of that. So they moved me down. I think it was like the cancer ward, because instead I'm like listening to flat lines and life support, and it was crazy. But it kind of made me feel more at home, because I was like, just put me on life support at this point, just knock me out. Um, so anyway, he was born May 8th. 4 days later was Mother's Day, May 12th. The day before Mother's Day was his funeral. So I have some photos. Again, I'm not at all like trying to, you know, this may be too much for some people, and I get this. And then there may be other people that have experienced miscarriages that can relate. Maybe if they've experienced a stillbirth and they can relate. I've experienced miscarriages at 5 months. I've had to deliver a 5-month baby, and she fit in the palm of my hand. She was transparent. Um, she was it was it's absolutely crazy, the things that I've endured pregnancy wise. So I feel like I can relate to everyone. I've had a miscarriage at 6 weeks. It doesn't matter when it happens. It's a loss. And when I found out years later, at that time we thought that he died because the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck. Years later, we found out that no, it was because I had lupus, and I developed a blood clot in the umbilical cord that stopped the blood flow, and it happened right before it was when my water broke and the water was released. That's when it happened. So he literally died in my stomach while I was sleeping, taking a nap, and I had no clue. And it's just, for the longest time, I beat myself up on it. I went to, there was this parents group for people that lost their kids. It was called For the Love of Christy in Austin, Texas. And I remember walking in and feeling so sad when I walked in, but then after hearing every other parent story about like how their 16-year-old committed suicide, or their 20-year-old got hit by a boat and died. And I remember thinking, I am so lucky, because these people spent 20 years of their life with someone that was taken away and not with them anymore. I didn't have any memories with my son, and I kind of felt lucky, because I went home from the hospital empty-handed to a nursery. I returned everything. I was so angry at God. I felt like I was being punished, and I was really just punishing myself. Um, and I just remember feeling like, man, I got lucky. I don't know what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night with the baby. I didn't know what it was like to take your child to school for the first time. I didn't know what that was like. And all these other parents knew. They knew what holidays were, buying presents, and then all of a sudden it changed for them. And I felt lucky, and it kind of helped my healing. Meanwhile, it helped them, because they felt so bad for me. They were like, "Oh my God, I'm so lucky I got to spend 10 years with my kid, 20 years with my kid, 30 years with my kid, because you didn't even get to spend a day." And it was just so funny how we each saw it differently. Um, I'll be honest, I have a 10-year-old or an almost 11-year-old and an almost 8-year-old. I would rather have never known them than to have known them all these years and lose them. I don't think I would be able to handle it. And I know that it may not make sense to people that haven't gone through this. I miss my son DeAnthony all the time. His birthday falls on Mother's Day this year. It's going to be a hard day. It's it's going to be really, really, really sad. I'm sorry. But I do feel like God gave him to me for a reason. I was obviously 17, so let's just say I wasn't like doing the right things, clearly. So he gave him to me to do the right things. And now, I'm so proud of the person I am today. And I feel like I wouldn't be this person if it wasn't for the experience I had with him. So anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit of my son. Um, so he lives in here. Yes, we had a funeral, and I'll show you those pictures. He lives in here. This is his ashes. It says, "Mama will always love you," May 8th, 2002. And then at my mom's job at the time, they all put money together and got me this really beautiful photo album. I've had it since. And it says, in loving memory of DeAnthony Isaiah, and it has his date of birth and his weight and how long he was. And I've just kept some pictures. I've taken some of the pictures out to show you. Um, so this was in the hospital. You know how you go to the hospital and they take your baby away and, take pictures of your baby. They asked me, actually, I told them I still wanted to do that. Some people kind of look down on me because they didn't understand, like, why is she taking pictures? We videotaped his funeral. Why is she doing that? And I tell them, this was all I have of him. I don't have anything else. I have nothing else. I don't have anything. So this is what I remember him by. And no, I don't like take these pictures out all the time and look at them. In fact, I had to look for this photo album because I just moved, and and then when I found it, I was like, okay, I got to put it in a different spot. But yes, I mean his urn sleeps right next to me, and it always has since he was born. He's always been right next to me. So this was his funeral. Um, I, you know, Funerals are never easy, but picking out a casket for a infant. Definitely, again, I'm not saying that it's not hard anyway, but this was definitely by far the hardest. I spent the whole day with him, changing him. He had different outfits and taking pictures. That's why you see different outfits. Photos. I mean, because this was it. People get baby photos done. Well, I didn't have that opportunity. So these were my photos. My sister did a article about my experience, and if you guys want it, I can ask her for the website and post it in the comment section, and you're more than welcome to read it. It's more in depth. In there, she found her boss at the time actually experienced the same thing we did, and had this poem. A message. Sorry, so I'm going to read it. It's called Little Feller. I'm just a little fellow who didn't quite make it there. I went straight to be with Jesus, but I am waiting for you there. Don't fret about me, Mama. I'm of all God's I'm of all God's lambs most blessed. I'd have loved to stay there with you, but the shepherd knows what's best. Many dwelling here where I live waited years to enter in, struggled through a world of sorrow, and their lives were marred with sin. So, sweet mommy, don't you sorrow. Wipe away those tears and chase the gloom. I went straight to Jesus' bosom from my lovely mother's womb. Thank you for the life you gave me. It was brief, but don't complain. I have all of heaven's glory, suffered none of earthling's pain. Thank you for the name you gave me. I'd have loved to brought it fame, but if I lingered in earth's shadows, might instead have brought it shame. Daddy gave me something for you. It's our secret, Mommy dear. Pressed it tight against my forehead, whispered in my tiny ear. I'll be waiting for you, Mommy. You, Daddy, Bud, and Sis. I'll be with you then forever. Then I'll give you Daddy's kiss. So anyway, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm pretty much an open book about this. I just such a big part of my life, and I wanted to share it with you. So anyway, it was Cinco de Mayo, so have a great Cinco de Mayo and be careful whatever you do. Bye.